Hare Krishna. So today we'll continue reading from the Krishna book, which is the summary of Canto 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam. We will continue from chapter 68 onwards. So we'll all do Mangal Charan first. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vande Aham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vangsha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevayat Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yad Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. So we continue reading from the purports of Srila Prabhupada. We are in chapter 68. So last time we talked about the killing of the gorilla demon, Dvivida. One thing, as I was reading past, in the story of Paundraka, that personality who dressed himself as Vasudeva and was telling Krishna that Krishna, you're not Vasudeva, I am Vasudeva. So there's been an interesting thing there that Sukadev Goswami actually 2 times, he says in a shloka, that Paundraka sent a messenger to Krishna to tell Krishna that he is not Vasudeva, rather Paundraka is Vasudeva. So Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains that the reason Sukadev Goswami told it twice, because he was shocked that someone can do this. So that's interesting, right? That somebody will actually go in front of, like imagine we come from Radha Gopinath. Dear Radha Gopinath, you're not Gopinath, I'm Gopinath. He's like, oh yeah? Here, eat now 6 times puris. Let's see. Anyway, So that was interesting. I forgot to mention that. I was just going through the notes and I realized I had written it here, but just the speed I had to slip. So today, we'll reduce our speed a bit. We'll try to do 12 chapters today because I'm only able to achieve 12 chapters. We'll attempt to do 12 chapters today. So we'll start with chapter 68, where we are going to talk about the marriage of Samba. So Duryodhan had a beautiful daughter. Her name was Lakshmana. Right? So Duryodhan had a beautiful daughter. And so Samba decided that he wanted to marry Lakshmana. So while a Swayamvar was going on, Samba suddenly appeared. He grabbed Lakshmana and he started to go. When this happened, the Kuru dynasty, including Kauravas, Pandavas, they were like, hey, what's going on? How could they steal our daughter, our family jewel? And then they all conspired and they said we should attack Samba. And so then 5 warriors were chosen and Karna was installed as the commander to go and capture Samba. But Samba basically, it was destroying everybody. Like they couldn't capture him. So finally, in a fit of anger, what they all decided was all 5, in fact 6 warriors in total, all 6 of them attacked Samba at the same time. So it is explaining that as he's trying to shoot one warrior, arrows are coming and they're breaking his bow and string. So they were attacking him from all sides and finally they captured Samba. So an interesting point here about this story is, usually in Mahabharata, people make this point that, when everybody attacked Abhimanyu, so in case of Abhimanyu, 8 Maharathis attacked him at the same time. The 8 attacked him at the same time and killed him. So it is explained that, at that time, it was just an off thing that was done by Karna and Duryodhan. No, actually, they've done it before. They've done this many times. This idea of, all of them, when they're getting defeated, that they come and they attack a warrior, a single warrior. So Karna and Duryodhan were not very nice. Of course, in India today, a lot of people find Karna as a hero. But there's a very nice article written by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. This is in the Spiritual Scientist. If you get a chance, read it. The Son of Sun God. Very, very aptly titled. I like the title. The Son of Sun God. If you get a chance, please read it. It's a very, very well-written article. It's about, I think, 4 or 5 parts, like 4 or 5 parts that he's written it, but very beautiful. There he's explaining that Karna was not as wonderful as everybody thought he was. He's not that amazing a devotee, right? I should apologize. Not as amazing a warrior as people thought he was, because Prabhu points out that sometimes people think that Karna, maybe Arjuna was the best warrior, then Karna was the second best. It's not really. Bhima defeated Karna 2 times, sorry. Like twice, Bhima has defeated Karna. Like, forget Arjuna. So Bhima has defeated him. Satyaki has defeated him. Like, there are many other people who have defeated Karna. So that's interesting to note. So anyway, here now Samba has been arrested. And as usual, our spiritual spaceman, Srila Prabhupada likes to call him the transcendental spaceman, Narad Muni immediately arrives in Dwaraka and tells them, hey, Samba's been arrested. And then, the Yadu dynasty is like, how could they arrest Samba? And then when they hear that, 5 warriors together attacked Samba, they were like completely perturbed. They're like, this is it. We're going to go to war. And, everybody's all geared up. But then, of course, Lord Balaram, he says that, everyone relax. I have good relationships with Duryodhan. So let us resolve this through mutual understanding. Right? Let's not fight. There's no point fighting. So then everyone agrees and says, yes, Lord Balaram, you have good relationships. So, and it's Duryodhan's daughter. So, let's send Lord Balaram to resolve the matter. So Lord Balaram arrives in Hastinapur, but because of the tense nature, he doesn't decide to enter Hastinapur. Instead, he camps outside. Right? So, you can see this even in today's politics. When 2 opposing parties have to meet, then they meet in a third area. So these things tend to happen. So when Balaram arrives there, he sends Uddhava. So Uddhava goes into Hastinapur and he informs them that Lord Balaram has arrived. So, everybody comes to welcome Lord Balaram, Bhishma, Dronacharya and everybody, they come. And then they, welcome him back into the assembly hall, and then Dhritarashtra and everyone sitting there, and they're saying, okay, what message do you have for us, my dear Balaram? So Lord Balaram says that by the order of King Ugrasen, please know that we have realized that you improperly fought with Samba. Okay? So please immediately release Samba. This was not good. Right? It's not a good thing to have happened. Now listening to this, the Kuru dynasty guys got very angry, Kshatriya, right? They're not ready to listen to their mistake. They have made a mistake. 5 people attacking a guy at the same time. So then, Srila Prabhupada writes this wonderful passage here. He says, we have allowed the Yadu dynasty the opportunity to become kings. How dare they speak like this to us? Words. Members of the Kuru dynasty like Bhishma, Dronacharya and Arjuna. So this is the shloka, right? They don't say Karna, Duryodhana, no, there. Because obviously they know when it comes to fighting, these are not the guys you want to rely on. The people you want to rely on is Bhishma, Dev, Dronacharya and Arjuna. They are the people you're going to rely on. So he says that, they would never, they don't even allow people to do anything. Such great are these warriors and you dare to speak with us like this? So in this way, as they are speaking, harshly towards the Yadu dynasty and to Balaram, then Lord Balaram gets very angry. And he gets so angry, then he says that I came here for a peaceful settlement, but you rascals are behaving so badly. So he says that even the king of Indra comes and takes orders from the Yadu. The king of heaven comes down. What are you people? Right? So this is the presentation is very harsh. And then finally Balaram says, that's it, I'm finishing you guys off. He immediately steps out. He takes his plow. He orders for his plow to come, and it is explained by Vishnu Chakrabarti Thakur that the plow becomes very huge in size. And then he starts digging the earth. Okay? And then he starts pulling Hastinapur, and he decides that today I'm going to drown everyone in Ganga. Whoever is living in Hastinapur. When this happens and they start feeling the rumbling, immediately they all go, Duryodhan and everyone come outside with Lakshmana and Samba and says, my dear Lord Balaram, please stop. Please stop. They fold their hands and they do, again, very nice prayers. They tell that he is the, source of, the source of creation. Balaram is Sankarshan. So our Sarga principle, our primary creation is Sankarshan, Mahavishnu, right? So then they glorify him. And then finally they say, we, surrender unto you. So the moment they say this, Balaram softens. Lord Balaram, he becomes very soft and he stops. Now, this is because Lord Balaram has that principle of being Guru. Guru can get very strong and very hard at you. But then the moment you surrender and you ask for forgiveness, immediately he softens. There's a beautiful story I remember of, I was reading the Ocean of Mercy. So Bhakti Charu Maharaj explains that one time Srila Prabhupada was asking for orange drink. Right? And he was ringing the bell. And then Srila Prabhupada, it took some time for Bhakti Charu Maharaj to make the orange drink because he had to go buy oranges. And so Srila Prabhupada kept ringing the bell. And then finally, when Bhakti Charu Maharaj came with the glass of orange juice, and Srila Prabhupada was very angry. He said, I don't want to drink the orange juice. And Bhakti Charu Maharaj was explaining that I was completely shattered. I didn't know what to do. I just simply stood there with the glass. So then after some time, Srila Prabhupada drank the juice. And then he says, he was telling them very mercifully, I criticize you, I'm old man, sometimes I get angry. Srila Prabhupada is mentioning. So these things happen, sometimes Guru can get very angry, but then becomes very soft immediately. So one has to accept that. One has to accept that harshness and that softness. Right? So, yeah, this is appreciated. So then finally, Srila Prabhupada writes something very nice here. It's very interesting to note. He says that, it is a Kshatriya principle that whenever there is a marriage between bride and bridegroom, they cause a fight. It's just a Kshatriya nature. They will cause a fight. And he was explaining that the Kauravas were just insulting Lord Balaram because they actually wanted to see his power. So, that Srila Prabhupada also explains from that angle, which is important for us to see. And then we see here how the dowry is given. Duryodhan gives, a lavish dowry. So it is actually explained that if one has a daughter, then generally one's wealth, right? So if let's say you have $1 million. So then it's explained that in dowry, you should give like 500,000 when the girl goes. So it's very because the girl that is the girl's wealth. So it goes in coins and gold. So yeah, that is a specific dowry system here. Then finally, Lord Balaram, he comes back to Dwaraka. There's a big reception. A big marriage of Samba is done. Then Srila Prabhupada mentions, a very interesting point that Sukadev Goswami, he is calling the river near Delhi as Ganga. But as all of you know, if you've been to Delhi, that river is called Yamuna. So then Srila Prabhupada mentions, and he says even the acharyas like Jiva Goswami have confirmed that the Ganga and Yamuna are basically the same river following different course. And then basically the Ganga that goes from Hastinapur to Vrindavan is called Yamuna. Right? But you can also call it Ganga. So there is nothing, because sometimes somebody may tell you that, oh, in this shloka is showing Ganga. It's not Ganga. So then you can explain like this, right? So this is important for us to know. So then chapter 69, this is interesting about Narad Muni. He visits the various homes of Krishna. Now it is explained that Narad Muni was actually cursed by Daksha. Right, that you cannot stay in any place for a moment, because Daksha had, I think, 10,000 kids the first time, and Narad Muni preached to them and made them brahmacharis. Yeah, I think it was 10,000. I don't remember the exact number. But the next time, I think he had another 10,000 kids. And again, Narad Muni preached to them and made them brahmacharis. Daksha got very angry. This preaching is very good preaching. Excellent preaching. But, and so he cursed. He says, you cannot stay in any place, longer to, give such big discourse. So it is actually said that, however, Narad Muni used to stay in Dwaraka. Right? Why? Because Dwaraka is spiritual world. So these curses don't work there. It's a dham, right? So it's not an ordinary place. It's actually a dham. So there the curses don't work. So Narad Muni used to spend a lot of time in Dwaraka. Right? So sometimes, one may feel as a devotee that I'm very inauspicious and I'm very cursed. One can feel that sometimes. That, everything I do wrong, everything breaks, devotees don't like me. Sometimes you may feel inauspicious. Nonetheless, you should go to the dham. Even though you may feel inauspicious, go to the dham. And by going to the dham, you'll realize that your inauspiciousness doesn't matter. Like sometimes you may be feeling very bad, but when you're in the dham, and you, like in Mayapur, if you go, now of course there's lockdown, but generally in Mayapur, the evening aarti, you see, 200, 300 devotees dancing. In Gaura Aarti, like in the evening Aarti. So beautiful, it's like butterflies, watching butterflies dancing. It's so amazing, it's really beautiful. So when you observe that, you feel, okay, whatever inauspiciousness is there, here everything is auspicious. So anyway, Narad Muni, he had the opportunity. So in this chapter, it shows Narad Muni's observations. The first thing is, he observes that there are 900,000 palaces. That's a lot of palaces, 900,000 palaces, right? Next he sees that first Narad Muni enters the first palace, which is Krishna and Rukmini. And so the moment he comes in, Krishna honors Narad Muni, washes his feet, gives him sweet words, right? And then says, what may I do for you, my dear Narad Muni? So of course Narad Muni replies immediately, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So see, this in Dwaraka Leela, people know Krishna is supreme. It's hard not to know. You see, it's hard to avoid that. And of course, when we are worshipping, Radha Gopinath, in the form of worship, we also take that form of Lakshmi Narayan. Srila Prabhupada says, when you're worshipping, you must look at the form of Lakshmi Narayan. So there needs to be that level of respect and awe and reverence. A little bit of awe and reverence is required. Right? So in that form, it is there. So you always, oh Krishna, you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I'm doing this service. Right? So you can see Narad Muni begins, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then, of course, he praises Krishna and finally says, I always want to be at your lotus feet. That is what I would like to do. So Krishna says, yeah, no problem. And then it is interesting how Narad Muni, goes to all 16,108 palaces. He doesn't leave a single one. He wants to see what Krishna is doing. So he goes to every single palace. And he sees Krishna in every single palace. Examples are given. Sometimes they're playing chess. Sometimes he's, playing with his children. Sometimes he's, doing yagyas. Sometimes feeding brahmanas. Sometimes, chanting silently. Practicing fighting. Those different moods of a person. You'll see Krishna doing all of that, giving charity. In one place, he's enjoying in a swimming pool. Yeah, pool party. He's enjoying in a swimming pool. In some places he's joking. Some places he's discussing economic development. We should build this type of marketplace, this type of mall. Then people will come. It'll be fun. So in this way you will see. And finally, Narad Muni sees Krishna in one place acting as a spy. He's, hiding, and then he's going in amongst the public of Dwaraka and seeing what are they talking about the king. So seeing this, Narad Muni starts laughing. He says, this is amazing. And then finally he says, my dear Krishna, your yoga maya is inconceivable. So I'm completely bewildered. Right? So then Krishna blesses him, and then finally he gets to see, Krishna removes that yoga maya, and so then he's able to actually see Krishna as one personality, but expanded himself into all of these places. Then it is also explained at this point that whatever activities Krishna did, so in chapter 70, it is explained that Grihastha should try and follow. Srila Prabhupada mentions that he's not asking them to follow the fact that Krishna married 16,000 people. He says, not that. He says, to follow the activities of Krishna does. So he says, although Krishna used to live in such a palatial place and even with wonderful, beautiful wives, nonetheless he used to get up at Brahma Muhurt for meditation. Right? And then Srila Prabhupada mentions about the plenary expansions of Krishna, that Krishna, Baladev, Narayana, the Chaturvyuhas, then another Narayana, then Chaturvyuhas. So like that he explains, he says that Krishna has all of these incarnations. However, Krishna is still executing his duties. And he says Krishna is so powerful that all his limbs are capable of doing everything. Like his hand is capable of eating, all various activities. He says, nonetheless, Krishna engages himself as a householder. So he was saying that he's encouraging people, bathe regularly, do tarpana, give cows in charity. And of course, Srila Prabhupada does mention here that all of this is hard in Kali Yuga, so please chant Hare Krishna. So she does mention that, right? And then another important aspect is that he pleased all men. Whatever the quality of the men, he pleased them. And then it's also explained that, whenever it came time to enter in the assembly hall, right, all 16,108 Krishnas would come at the same time, merge into one, and then enter the hall. It would be an amazing sight to see, right? And so it's explained that this hall, this Sudharma hall, in this hall, there were no lamentations. The 6 lamentation, hunger, thirst, none of those 6 whips of lamentations are there, right? So it's a very interesting place. So and it is explained that when they come there, then Krishna would have many functions. Like jesters and jokers would come. Stand-up comedians, they would come. You'd have actors, you would have musicians, singers, learned brahmanas. So it's very interesting that whatever we see today, as entertainment, they were also having the same entertainment, stand-up comedians, narrations, movies, and all of that stuff was there, right? Music, singing, fun, all of these things were there. So it's not like all of this stuff is not there in the Vedic system. It's there. It's accepted, right? It's just that it is more suitable. Nowadays what we do, the stand-up comedians, they are, continuously saying bad words. That's not the mood. No, this is, good jokes and really, funny and educational. So, satirical, right? So satire, like good satire. And so then, while this was happening, one time, immediately a messenger comes in front of Krishna. It's an unknown messenger, so the doorkeeper brings him. And then, of course, it is understood that this messenger has been sent by the kings who have been imprisoned by Jarasandha. Jarasandha, back again. You see, he was there a few chapters ago, he's back. So, the messenger tells that, the kings have, they write a wonderful message to say, my dear Krishna, we have surrendered to you. Right? You are the proprietor of all the world. Then how come kings like Jarasandha are there? Right? So they're, encouraging Krishna. They say, Krishna, we have surrendered into your lotus feet. They say something very interesting, that we now understand the fact that we've been arrested by Jarasandha and are being tortured, that this is our past deeds. Right? But they say, but now we have surrendered to you. So, if you can please remove our anxiety, that will be great. So when Krishna hears this, all the people in the assembly hall, they immediately start discussing, what this guy Jarasandha, because of him we had to leave Mathura, we have to do something about him. There's a lot of, amongst Kshatriyas, the mood comes that, yes, time has come to fight. And so then immediately at that point, Narad Muni arrives there. And so when Narad Muni comes, everyone gives gives great respects to Narad Muni, and they ask him, my dear Narad Muni, Krishna asked him that, you are the knower of, you're Trikal Darshi, you're the knower of everything that happens in the 3 worlds. He says, can you please tell me how the Pandavas are doing? So at this point, Narad Muni, explains that, Krishna, you know everything. Still you are asking me to engage me in some service, so I will explain. Then he explains that this time King Yudhishthira wants to do the Rajasuya sacrifice. And so, because he wants to do the Rajasuya sacrifice, he's saying that he wants Krishna to come there. So now listening to this, all the people in the assembly hall, they're thinking, Man, we were about to kill Jarasandha, and he wants Krishna to go to Hastinapur for Rajasuya. He says, what's going on, man? There's change of mood. So, change of mood, sometimes you don't like it, right? So imagine, Prabhu is there. Prabhu wants to cook some dal, and we start coming and say, we want to make fruit salad. He's like, help me cook some sabji right now. Don't change the mood. So it happens, right? These things happen. So, looking at all of this, discrepancy, Krishna asked Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, what should I do? You are very intelligent. So now Uddhava is very sharp, right? So he is thinking, okay, two things have happened at the same time. How to resolve the matter? So Uddhava says that, my dear Krishna, now we are in chapter 71. My dear Krishna, here is the plan. That, Rajasurya sacrifice has to be done. So you please go to Hastinapur, Indraprastha, and then to fulfill the Rajasurya sacrifice, you have to get victory over all the kings. So what we will do is that we have killed so many, armies of Jarasandha. So this time let's fight with him one-to-one. No more army business. Let's just fight with him one-to-one. So to do this, let us send Bhima, because Bhima was, powerful. He had this, Jarasandha had the strength of, I think it is explained that during that time, Jarasandha, Salya, Krishna, and not Krishna, I apologize, Bhima, and there is one more person, they had the strength of 10,000 elephants. So Jarasandha, Salya, and Bhima, they had the strength of 10,000 elephants. Right? So, of course, Bhima got that because remember when he got poisoned by the laddu that Duryodhan gave him, and then he was thrown into the lake, and then from the lake, he went to the in front of the Nagas, and then the Nagas gave him the blessing, elixir. They gave him an elixir. By him drinking it, he got the strength of 10,000 elephants. So very strong personality. So saying that let Bhimasen fight with Jarasandha, and what we will do is we dress up as Brahmanas. So like that, because if you dress up as a Brahmana and you ask a Kshatriya, first you get immediate access to the king. If you are dressed up as a Brahmana, you get immediate access to the king. And then you can ask the Jarasandha for a fight. So this becomes the master plan. So using this master plan, everybody in the assembly hall approve and they say what Uddhava said is correct. Krishna takes blessings from everyone and he sets off to Hastinapur. Right? So when he sets off to Hastinapur, it is explained that he goes with a full entourage, complete entourage with all his queens and everybody. And then the Pandavas are excited. They meet Krishna, in the entrance. They welcome him in. And it is explained that Maharaj Yudhishthira is so excited to meet Krishna, so excited that he forgets what to do. He doesn't know what to do next. So he's just standing and he's like. So then the queens are like, okay, Krishna, come. The king is not doing anything, so they start welcoming him. Yudhishthira is like, just do what you feel like. So Yudhishthira is completely baffled, It is actually explained here that why in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami also mentions that it is explained that, in the stories of Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj is a topmost devotee, right? Now, whenever we use the word topmost devotee, it is explained in terms of dealing with Krishna, right? So, he got a chance to deal with Narasimhadev, right? So, he had that. Then they're saying that, okay, better than them, Yudhishthira. So Yudhishthira meaning the Pandavas, the Pandavas. Why? Because Krishna used to stay in their house. He used to stay 3 months, 4 months in their house. And they used to, deal with Krishna. He said, better than them, the Yadus. He says, while Krishna would sometimes come to the, palace of, into the kingdom of, the Pandavas, he used to always stay in Dwaraka. So the Yadus are the topmost. Right? And then amongst all of them, Uddhava is the topmost. But it says, higher than Uddhava are the gopis of Vraj, are the Vrajavasis. Why? Because Krishna never leaves from there. So it's very intriguing. Krishna never leaves, right? Higher than them, amongst the Vrajavasis or the gopis, amongst gopis is Radharani. So, this is how it is explained. Right? And again, when the term topmost is used, topmost meaning the one who can deal with the maximum form of Krishna. Right? The maximum form. So, right now we are able to deal with the Vigraha form of Krishna. So, we have some appreciation. But even amongst that, only Brahmanas can go in. So, you can start seeing the difference. Like, you can already start seeing the difference, right? Okay, I can do this, but I can't do that. You see, you already are able to observe the difference. So this doesn't mean that, you're a lesser devotee than them. See, that's not the point. The point is, in dealing with Krishna, the more you deal, then that's how it is explained, the more topmost, the more topmost, the more topmost. Yeah? So anyway, so Yudhishthira is amazed, Krishna is there, and then there Krishna meets Subhadra, he meets Draupadi, all the queens meet, and Srila Prabhupada mentions that it is at this time that the Khandava forest burning, that whole thing takes place. So now we are in chapter 72. So in chapter 72, now this plan is going to take place, right? So King Yudhishthira asks Krishna, I want to do the Rajasuya sacrifice. I need your blessings. Krishna says, yes, what you have said is correct, let's do it. However, in order to do this, you must conquer all the kings. Now Yudhishthira is thinking, conquer all the kings? And then Krishna encourages him. He says, yes, you should. He says, your brothers are celestials. You are a celestial. Right? So go, conquer. So getting, hope from Krishna, Yudhishthira says, he sends Sahadev to the south. He sends Nakula to the west. He sends Arjuna to the north. And he sends Bhima east. Now, interestingly, in the east is Anga, the kingdom of Anga, which is by Karna. So Karna is actually there in Anga, right? And so it is explained that Bhima defeated Karna. This is the one instance that Bhima defeated Karna, and there's another instance in Mahabharata that he defeats Karna. So in this one, Bhima defeats Karna. So with this plan, four brothers going in four directions, Yudhishthira says, okay. Now, Srila Prabhupada mentions here, and even the Acharyas mention the fact that the idea of doing Rajasuya was not to cause a fight. Rather, it was to collect taxes. Now, this Rajasuya sacrifice is, even more potent than Ashwamedha Yajna, which is generally what people do. Like Prithu Maharaj, he tried to do Ashwamedha Yajna, right? Now, this Rajasuya sacrifice is explained that it was, in eons ago, it was done by Varuna himself. And all the utensils were made of gold. All utensils were made of gold. Yeah, in a place like that, someone asked me to wash the utensils, I'll say yes. Just pocket one of the utensils. You want to be a, pot washer in this place. Yeah, no plastic, gold. So, of course, so this Rajasuya sacrifice, you need a lot of gold to do it, like a lot of wealth. So then actually, the purpose of sending the brothers was to collect taxes. So in this way, as they are going, Bhima comes back and says, all the kings have been conquered. However, Jarasandha is refusing. He is refusing. So what should we do? Right? So then Krishna explains the plan. So everyone agrees. So Arjuna, Krishna and Bhima, right? They dress up as Brahmanas. And they go in front, they come, in front of Jarasandha. So when Jarasandha is there, he was, giving charity to the Brahmanas. When he sees them, he says, yes, what would you like? They say, my dear king, you are the greatest. Great personalities have been giving charity. By glorifying, they're saying, we would like something. And so Jarasandha, he's thinking, okay. Now what is happening? He's observing these people and he's thinking, I can see, they've got like big bulging, like Bhanu Maharaj, like big bulging, biceps. He's like, don't look like a Brahman. Big bulging biceps. I can see the mark of, weapons. When you hold the bow, you get the mark of the weapons. So he says, I can see, the scratches of, arrows. I can see, these guys don't look like Brahmanas. But then Jarasandha remembers about Bali Maharaj. You see, so that's why Krishna, that's why Krishna says, among asuras I am Prahlad. In the opulences of Krishna, this is chapter 10. Yeah, chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, the opulences of Krishna. It says amongst, the asuras I am Prahlad. So what happens is, even amongst demons, there are devotees. So sometimes when a demon is thinking, he's like, yeah, I can be like Bali Maharaj. Yeah. Bali Maharaj gave his whole kingdom to Vishnu. Oh, I can also do it. Then he tells, yes, Brahmanas, what do you want? So immediately Krishna says, know this, that I am Krishna, your nemesis. He said, this is Arjuna and this is Bhima. We wish to fight a duel with you. Jarasandha laughs. He says, you fools, I accept. Then he looks at Krishna. Krishna, you're a coward. I'm not going to fight with you. The actual problem was Jarasandha knew that he will lose to Krishna. So he's like, I don't want to fight with you. He says, Arjuna, you're too young. Bhima, let's fight. And, something very interesting. There's a book written by Madhvacharya. It's called Mahabharat Tatparya Nirnaya. So this is the conclusions of Mahabharata. So, Madhvacharya, he actually explains. And Madhvacharya, being himself a descendant from Vayu, he actually says that actually in Mahabharata, Krishna was the, orchestrator and it was Bhima who was prominent. So he gives Bhima prominence, and this is one of the examples of the prominence, of why the prominence is given to Bhima. This is one such example. So anyway, Bhimasen and Jarasandha start fighting. And the funny thing is, they used to fight during the daytime, and in the night time they used to enjoy, he used to, bring nice foods for them to eat. So it's very, like Kshatriyas have a very different nature. Bhaktivedanta Pur Maharaj explains very nicely. He says, usually we think, if somebody gets very angry, he's in mode of passion. But actually, that is mode of ignorance, if you get angry very quickly. That's not passion. Passion has a different, quality. And when we will do Uddhava Gita, these qualities will come out. Of what actually is mode of passion. Things we generally think is actually mode of passion. Guy gets very angry, he gets intense. That's all ignorance. That's got nothing to do with passion. Yeah? So that's very, interesting. So anyway, these Kshatriyas, they had a very different nature. They would fight like anything, but in the evenings, big reception, very friendly. Jarasandha used to be very friendly. So in this way, they fought for 27 days. Right? Finally, on the 28th day, Bhima comes to Krishna and says, Lord Krishna, I can't conquer. He's too hard. And so, the Lord Krishna then tells the story of Jarasandha. So, Jarasandha name comes from Jara, right? And Sandhi. So in Sanskrit, Sandhi means to join, Sandhi Viched, right? To join. So Jarasandha is one who was joined by a witch. It's explained that the king had 2 wives. He was not getting any children. So he does a yagya, and the Brahmana gives him a fruit. So he cuts the fruit in half and gives it to his 2 wives. So, two halves of a kid are born from each of the wives. And so then he's thinking, what is this? And so finally one witch, because young kid, right? So they naturally send the body away. You don't burn the body for kids. You actually just bury them. So one witch gets hold of the body and she joins her. Right? So he becomes Jarasandha. And says because of the influence of the witch, Jarasandha became like this. That's why he's like that. So anyway, finally, Bhima, Krishna also puts his energy in Bhima. So Bhima's 10,000 elephants are not enough. Krishna puts his energy in, he gives him his energy, and then Bhima finally, rips Jarasandha apart, and in this way he defeats him. And then finally, they install his son, Sahadev, as king. His son's name was also Sahadev, interestingly. And then what Krishna does is we're in chapter 73 now, he goes and he frees the 20,800 kings. That's how many kings he had enslaved, right? So imagine how many kings there were at that time. Just appreciate that, right? 20,800 kings he had imprisoned, right? So when the kings see Krishna, they are like, the moment they, they had not eaten for many days, they were completely famished, their skin was, all stretched up. Moment they saw Krishna, they became greatly joyful, or they forgot all that pain. And the first thing they said is, my dear Krishna, you have released us from this imprisonment. Now you please release us from another imprisonment of this material world. You see, so beautiful, right? Nice poetry. And then, they tell Krishna that they have foolishly been engaged in politics, and then because of them, many people have died. And so this is interesting that when you are in politics, because of your actions, people will die. It's just the nature of it. You have to learn to accept that, right? And then finally they say, no, please make us your servants. So Krishna says, I bless you with devotional service. Now go back, act like Kshatriyas, but act regulatedly, right? Be regulated and constantly be engaged in my devotional service. So with these blessings, he asks the newly crowned king, Sahadev, to give, all these kings, enough, because, Jarasandha was extremely rich. Give them enough paraphernalia and then send them on their way. Now in this way, Krishna then comes back to Hastinapur and Yudhishthira, and everyone's asking what happened. Then Bhima is explaining, that this happened, and then I tore him apart. And the story of heroes. And then when Yudhishthira is listening, tears are flowing down from his eyes. And then Yudhishthira says, okay, let us start the Rajasuya sacrifice. The Rajasuya sacrifice starts up, and then it is explained that Maharaj Yudhishthira, he called everyone and he engaged everyone very nicely. He, called even his enemies, the Kauravas. He called even demigods like Brahma, Shiva, along with their consorts. They all came. All the demigods came. Right? So, it is explained that at this one time, after this, and so remember, whenever you hear terms like Rajasuya, sacrifice and all, usually for us a yajna means, in the next 2-3 hours it finishes. Here when we say yajna, we are talking 1-2 years. Like, it's a long yajna. It's not just, 1-2 hours. We're talking 1-2 years. Many, long time it takes to complete these yajnas. And so it says finally, a particular moment comes when the soma juice has to be had. And this soma juice has to be given to a exquisite personality. Okay? And so it was explained that this thing is called Agra Puja. And so they were asked, this Agra Puja has to be given to the topmost personality in that place. Now, just to explain who were there, right? All the demigods were there. Brahma, Shiva. All the sages were there. Vyasadev, Asita, all high-end people were there. Kshatriyas were also there. So then everyone is discussing who, some are saying, well, Shiva is the greatest, Brahma is the greatest. So everyone's discussing, who. Finally, Sahadev, the Pandava, he gets up and he speaks. And he says, Lord Krishna is the best amongst everyone. So he should be given. He is the super soul. If we please him, automatically everybody gets satisfied. Whereas if we please anybody else, some party may become happy, some party may become sad. So listening to all of this, everybody agrees. Bhishma Dev, all the sages, they say, yes, you have spoken, be it, so be it, tathastu, tathastu. And then King Yudhishthir, then he brings Krishna and he worships Krishna. Right? And he washes his lotus feet. Now, what you will see here is pretty much how, if sometimes, some Maharaj or some Vaishnava comes to your house, this is generally how to greet them. You wash their feet, sprinkle the water on your head, and you give them cloth, nice cloth. You give them, here it is explained, Krishna was given jewelry as well. He likes to dress up, yeah? So, and then, everybody was very respectful to Krishna. But sitting in the assembly was one wonderful personality, Shishupal. Dodgy character. He was very envious of Krishna. And the main reason he was envious was because of Rukmini. That's the real reason. He wanted to get married to Rukmini, but then Krishna snatched Rukmini. So now he got this opportunity, and of course it is also said, Vinash Kale Viprita Buddhi, that at the time of one's death, one's intelligence is lost. So he starts speaking. He's saying, how can everybody listen to this foolish young boy, Sahadev? Such great personalities are sitting here, Shiva, Brahma. How you can give this Krishna? And he uses something and he says, this Krishna is a cowherd. He's a Gopala. Right? So he's saying, he's just a cowherd. But Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains that, Gopala can also mean one who takes care of, the entire universe. Right? All the senses. Gopala, it means many things. So then he says, Krishna, you're a crow. Kaka. You're a crow. You know why he says? Because Krishna is blackish in color, right? So crow is black. So that's why. He wants to really insult Krishna. But then Acharyas explain that actually Kaka means, Ka and Aka means happiness and distress. So one who's beyond happiness and distress. So yes, correct. Krishna is like that. So, the Acharyas are confirming. He says, this Krishna, we don't know his caste. He said, yes, Krishna has no caste. Yes, correct. He says, he has no good qualities. He says, yes, Krishna is guna hina. Nirguna. He has no good or bad qualities. So, in this way, the Acharyas, whatever Shishupal is saying, they're saying, actually, if you look at it like this, it's all glorifications of Krishna. So, it's very interesting. And then finally, Shishupal is becoming crazy. Krishna is calmly listening. He's not doing anything. Then, what happens is some people get angry and they leave the assembly hall. So, it is explained that if some Vaishnava or Krishna is being, derided upon, then one should leave the assembly hall. If you don't have the ability to stop it, just leave the assembly hall. There's no need to fight. But then other kings were there. They started taking the swords out. But Shishupal was so angry that he's saying, come, I'll fight with all of you. Bhishma Dev, these are like Maharathis, right? Shishupal isn't a Maharathi. So he's like, I'll fight with everybody. So now this our Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur explains something very interesting. He says that Shishupal could have said no right in the beginning. Right? When they said Krishna will be prayed, he could have told no right in the beginning. But he wanted to destroy the sacrifice of Yudhishthira. So when the puja starts, in between he starts saying all of this. So he wants to destroy the place. And so it is explained that if there is fighting in a place of yagya, then the yagya is destroyed. Right? The whole yagya is completely washed out. So now because of that, right, this is Shishupal's plan. Look at the level of planning, right? This requires some serious planning here, right? So Krishna, of course, he's the best planner. So Krishna said, okay, enough now, this is too much. He sends his Sudarshan Chakra. The Sudarshan Chakra cuts Shishupal's head, right? But it cuts in such a way that not a drop of blood falls down. See, this is Krishna, right? And he just sends the head and body away. So this is Krishna. That Krishna makes sure that if his devotee has to do something, no matter what inauspiciousness somebody else wants to do, Krishna will manage it. He will manage. Sometimes you may be in a very dangerous position and maybe thinking, I want to execute my devotional service. I'm in a very dangerous and precarious position. As long as you execute in your devotional service, right, Krishna will take away all the inauspiciousness. Sometimes you may see ghosts and things. Happens, right? Keep executing your devotional service, everything will be taken away. Don't worry about it. Rest assured. So this is Krishna's guarantee, right? So then, after this, everybody feels, okay, this is so auspicious. Then they go for a bathing ceremony. This is called Avabhrita. Avabhrita means auspicious bathing, right? And now Sukadev Goswami tells something very interesting. He says, by the termination of this yagya, everybody was happy, except one person, Duryodhan. So Duryodhan was not happy. Now, at this point, Parikshit Maharaj, we're going to 75 now. At this point, Parikshit Maharaj actually asks Krishna that why Duryodhan was not happy. And here's something interesting. There's a dedicated chapter here, okay, in Bhagavatam, explaining the envious nature of Duryodhan. And there is also a dedicated chapter in Mahabharata explaining the envious nature of Duryodhan. So you have to understand, he was an extremely envious person, right? So it's not like Krishna simply wanted to kill him. He was a really very envious person. So it is being explained, and when we read this, it's quite amazing, that this bathing ceremony is explained. A lot of liquid substances, were applied, and a lot of beautiful queens and kings were there. Even the demigods, demigoddesses, like Apsaras, everybody was there. And so it is explained that the place was so beautiful. So Srila Prabhupada writes something very nice here, right? The people were throwing color on each other, throwing liquid on each other. This is a real beach party, real party. So, here Srila Prabhupada mentions, persons who were not clean in heart were agitated by lustful desires. Who were not clean in heart. They got completely agitated by this lustful desire, seeing all these beauties. And what such personality was? Duryodhana. Now, Duryodhana could not fathom that everybody was glorifying Yudhishthira, and Yudhishthira was now looking, they were saying, Yudhishthira was looking like the second Indra. Like that's how amazing this sacrifice had gone. Right? So Duryodhana was extremely envious. And now he was envious for many reasons. So he was envious of the good nature of the Pandavas. He was envious about this, of the palace. They had this wonderful palace, which was very illusional palace. Right? And he was, most importantly, he was envious of Draupadi. So it is explained that in the Swayamvar of Draupadi, right, Duryodhana wanted to, take her hand. And so he had, even at his behest, Karna went and he wanted to, there was a very wonderful, arena. It is explained that in that arena, this is, Madhvacharya explains this very beautifully. Madhvacharya, he says that the way the Swayamvar was, is that there was a wheel. Okay, and in the wheel there was a fish, and then there's a hole through which you have to push the arrow. Okay, then there is a reflecting ground, right, through which you see the reflection, and then there are 5 arrows that you have to shoot, and of course you have to string the bow, and then put the 5 arrows and you have to shoot. So this is the Swayamvar of Draupadi. So it is actually explained. Now many times people say that Draupadi told Karna that don't shoot, I don't want to be married to a Suta. But actually in Mahabharata this statement is not there. This statement is not there in Mahabharata. This is only in this the Ganguly's edition of Mahabharata, and only his edition. The original Mahabharata does not have this. In fact, in the original Mahabharata it is explained that Karna, right, he was able to string the bow and he was able to pull the bow, right? But eventually the bow twanked. And so he was defeated. He was not able to shoot. It's very interesting that, when people realize this. Because many times people think that, Karna was, rejected. He was not rejected. Not at all rejected. It's just, he lost. He lost actually in the Swayamvar. And finally Arjuna. And so Madhvacharya explains this so beautifully. He says, the fish on top is Matsya, Krishna avatar, Vishnu Tattva. Right? The reflection that he was seeing, you see the fish, that's Shastra. Through Shastras, like right now we are all listening to these stories of how Duryodhana is feeling insulted. So we are observing this. These are the windows. Srila Prabhupada calls these pictures, windows to the spiritual world. So this is our window to the spiritual world. We are looking at all of this stuff. So he says that reflection is Shastra. You can see Matsya. And then the 5 arrows are your 5 senses. So you must dedicate your 5 senses to Krishna. So very beautifully he explains it. So, sorry, we got completely sidetracked. We were talking about Draupadi. Back to what we were discussing. So Duryodhana was very envious of Draupadi's beauty. He was saying, she has 5 husbands. Still she, is able to please everybody. It's hard, right? When you have to please 5 masters. Imagine, in the temple. Just imagine for a temple. If you have to report to 5 people. Oh, Prabhu. I have to report to this devotee, they're all crazy. It affects you, right? It affects you. He's saying this Draupadi is 5 masters and she's able to please all of them. So she's very, super excellent personality. So of course, and then here there is that wonderful scene where Duryodhana is walking in the palace and, one time he's thinking that is water, but actually it is, land. So then, he's not walking. Then finally, everyone is looking at him and, giggling. Finally, he realizes that it's not water, it's land, and he walks. Other time, he thinks it's land, but it's actually water. So when he steps on it, he falls in. Now, when he falls in, it is explained here that Bhima, the Draupadi, and, Krishna's queens, they all, and Krishna himself, they're all laughing and laughing and laughing at Duryodhana. He's completely wet. It's like a, full-on comedy show going on there, right? And so, Yudhishthira, he realizes, that, Duryodhana is feeling bad. So he looks at the queens and says, no, please don't laugh. But Krishna tells Yudhishthira, no, why are you stopping? He says, you should not stop people from having fun. Let them laugh. And so Duryodhana, he gets very annoyed. And it's explained that another time what happened is that Duryodhana is walking and he's thinking there is a glass, but there is no glass. Like there is no glass. He's saying, oh, okay, so, he is thinking that there's a glass door, but there's actually no glass door. You can just walk through. Other time, there is a glass door, but he doesn't realize that. So he's trying to grab it. And as he grabs it, he bangs his head on the glass door. so like this, many, many incidents happen with him in this palace. So he gets extremely envious. And so with this envy, now it is, of course, Srila Prabhupada explains here that Duryodhana was put into illusion by the supreme will of Krishna. Actually, the interesting thing is when Pandavas, leave, when they go back to heaven, they see Duryodhana, Karna, everyone in heaven. They see them. And actually, when they see this, Yudhishthira gets a bad taste in his mouth. And then he asks, where is Krishna? Where is Govinda? So even in the Tatparya Nirnaya, this is explained. Then he sees Govinda and then he realizes, I want to be with Krishna. I don't want to be in this heaven. Where this Duryodhana, they try to, strip Draupadi and all, and now look at them sitting here. So heaven is not a good place also. So very interesting, that realization. So then, this is how Sukadev Goswami explains Duryodhana's envy. Now, while Krishna was in the Rajasuya sacrifice, when he killed, Shishupal had a best friend, Salva. Now this guy Salva got very angry. And as with all people who get angry, he started praying to Lord Shiva. Anger, right? So he did big austerities for Lord Shiva. Finally, Lord Shiva came and said, what do you want? He says, I want an invincible airplane with an invincible army. So now it is explained that Lord Shiva gives him an airplane, the likes of which we have not seen. This is like, Independence Day, that movie, right? Star Wars, the Death Star. Think of this as the Death Star. It's like, one of those phenomenal, airships. So once, Salva gets this ship, he immediately comes to Dwaraka and starts attacking them. Right? And then Pradyumna comes out and Pradyumna wants to, he valiantly, defends Dwaraka. But then in one of the fights, Dyuman, who is the commander-in-chief of Salva, he hits Pradyumna and Pradyumna acts unconscious. Now, when he acts unconscious, his charioteer, who is the son of Daruka, so Daruka is Krishna's charioteer, So his son is Pradyumna's charioteer because Pradyumna is Vasudev's son, right? So when he sees that Pradyumna is unconscious, he immediately rides out of the battlefield. And then, of course, when Pradyumna regains his consciousness, he chastises the charioteer and he says, how could you remove me from the battlefield? What will the great, Balaram and all think of me? What will, Mother Devaki think of me? How could you remove me from a battlefield? So he's very agitated, right? And of course, here Daruka responds, he says, that this is the duty of a charioteer. Now, our acharyas actually explain that if the charioteer didn't have to do anything, why have a charioteer? He has to do some service, right? He has some service. He's in the battlefield. So he gets one opportunity to do service, immediately he acts. So this is devotee. Devotee is anxious to do service. Usually if we are there, just imagine one day you wake up, right? And the temple is clean. Prasadam is all cooked. Just magically, it all starts happening automatically. We'll be like, let's relax the whole day. Let's go to the beach. We become very relaxed, very, calm. But look at these devotees. Although they know Krishna is capable of fighting and everything, they are waiting for an opportunity to do service. And the moment they got it, immediately he's like, and then he's, massaging Krishna, Pradyumna, and then Pradyumna is saying, it was just my duty. So Pradyumna then becomes pacified. He says, okay, you are doing your duty, I accept. And so then they come back to the battlefield, and then they start fighting again. Right now, meanwhile, Krishna is informed in Hastinapur, because he was in the Rajasuya sacrifice, that this has happened. Please come back immediately. Okay. So at this point, Krishna takes permission from the Kuru, the elder Kurus, and then he reverts back, and then he brings Lord Balaram, and he makes Balaram, the chief. Like now, Balaram is going to lead. Now, when Balaram comes, what is the question of being lost? Guru has arrived, right? So then it is explained that Krishna fights with Salva, and Salva, he calls Krishna a fool, you mudha. He's like full on, he's like hammering Krishna. Finally, he does something interesting here, that when Krishna is about to defeat Salva, Salva puts an extraordinary magic. He sends one person to Krishna and says, my dear Krishna, Salva has captured your father. And then Krishna sees Salva, he makes an illusional Vasudev. And then he says, ha ha ha, I've caught Vasudev. He says, see Krishna, I'm about to kill Vasudev. What can you do? And he chops the head of Vasudev. And then he throws it down. And so, it is explained here that Krishna gets very, bewildered and very, feels very grief, a lot of grief. But then immediately he comes to his sense and he thinks, hang on, with Balaram here, how can this happen? Then he realizes this is all illusion. And then finally Krishna with his Sudarshan Chakra, he cuts off the head of Salva. And he destroys the plane. It's interesting when Krishna destroys the plane, as the plane is crashing. So it is explained that Salva is trying to control the plane, and as about to crash, he jumps off the plane. Like a typical movie, right? So finally Krishna cuts his head off and he kills him. And our acharyas actually explain this. Why was Krishna bewildered? And so Jiva Goswami gives multiple explanations about Krishna getting bewildered. He says Krishna got bewildered when Aghasur was there. Krishna got bewildered when Brahma took his children. Not children, I apologize. When Brahma took his friends, right, and the cows. So Jiva Goswami is explaining that Krishna is doing this for the Leela. He wants to have some Leela. Otherwise, imagine, like a robot. Yeah. No, he's Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. That's, there's a shloka in Brahma Samhita. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Pratibhavi Tavirya. So it's very nice. So he's Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. He really likes that, right? So that's how our acharyas explain this. And so this killing, when Salva gets killed, then another personality shows up. We're now in chapter 78, Dantavakra. And it is explained that this Dantavakra, he was actually at the gate of Mathura. He had actually reached Mathura. Right? So he was thinking that, I'm going to hurt. I've actually, I forget the name of the place, but in the Parikrama, you can go to that place where Dantavakra has been killed. He was killed in that place. Jiva Goswami actually explains this, that this story, and even Rupa Goswami in Laghu Bhagavatamrita explains that Dantavakra, Krishna was in Dwaraka, but then he realizes that Dantavakra is near Mathura. So then Krishna immediately goes to Mathura and he kills Dantavakra there. Right? So Dantavakra, Dantavakra has become so, crazed that thinking that my friend Salva is also dead now. So Dantavakra is like, ah. So he's roaming around with his rod. Just a rod. Like, literally just a rod. And when Krishna comes, he's like, I'll attack you. And he's trying to attack Krishna. Finally, Krishna kills him. Now it is explained that Shishupal and Dantavakra were Jaya Vijaya. This was the third birth. Right? This was the third birth. And if you all remember in Canto 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Yudhishthira asks this question to Narad Muni. Before Narad Muni tells the story of Prahlad Maharaj. He asks this question to Narad Muni in Canto 7, that my dear Narad Muni, I can see that Shishupal and Dantavakra both got liberation by Krishna's mercy. Right? How is this happening? How come Krishna is so merciful? So then Narad Muni starts explaining all of this stuff. The story of Prahlad Maharaj. So the point here is that the deliverance of Shishupal and Dantavakra is one of the main reasons that Rupa Goswami uses in Laghu Bhagavatamrita to explain the greatness of Krishna over Vishnu. So he says Jaya Vijaya had 3 births. Right? So they were born as Hiranyaksh, Hiranyakashipu, as Ram and, as Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and as Shishupal and Dantavakra. So he explains that they were born. This is like they were born, right? Now he tells something amazing. He says, however, in the first 2, Vishnu came and killed them. They did not get full liberation. It's only when Krishna came and killed Shishupal and Dantavakra that they got back their original position of Jaya and Vijaya. So he's explaining this is the superiority of Krishna. So it's very amazing how Rupa Goswami presents this. So there's a section in Laghu Bhagavatamrita where he's explaining the superiority of Krishna over Vishnu. So this is an example, very key example of that, right? And of course, our Lord Chaitanya, he takes the example of Lakshmi Devi trying to enter Rasa Leela as another example. So Lord Chaitanya also mentions that. So Rupa Goswami also talks about that. But this is one very unique example that he gives. He says that Krishna had to come and deliver Jaya and Vijaya from their, position, so they could get back their original form in the spiritual world. So this becomes one of the main reasons. Yeah. So killing of Dantavakra. Now something interesting happens. When Uddhava had gone back, Krishna. First when Krishna left Vrindavan. Right? When he left Vrindavan, he had left for 3 months. And so they were in Vipralamba at that time, the gopis, right? And so at that time, Krishna was in a bhava form. Then when Uddhava came to meet them, Krishna came in Aprakata Leela. So when they started doing Leela Smarana, they could now start seeing Krishna everywhere. But Aprakat, other people could not see. Right? Now when Dantavakra killing happens, because it happens in Mathura, sorry, when I say in Mathura, I apologize, near Mathura, then Krishna crosses the Yamuna. And now, this time he goes back to Vrindavan in his Prakata Leela. Now they can physically see him. And so then he enjoys with them. And then from this, he winds up this is the wind up of the, Vrindavan Leela. So Gokula Leela is now wound up. Dwaraka Leela will still go on for some more chapters. But Gokula Leela is wound up and everyone goes back. Right, to the original position of Gokul. So for them, nothing has changed. Everything is seamless. But from you who can visualize, the entire or that Leela becomes Aprakat. So this is, Rupa Goswami explains this, and the reference for this, I believe, is in Padma Puran. Don't quote me on it, but I believe that's where it's there. But in Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami confirms this. So we'll go by what the Acharya says. We say, Shri Rupa Goswami is the establisher in our Mangal Charan. So we take that position. So then, in this chapter, we see that finally after killing of Dantavakra, then Krishna comes back to Dwaraka. He stays for 2 months there in Vrindavan, and then he winds up. So that's when the wind up takes place. And then he comes back to Dwaraka, right? Now, see, remember, whenever Krishna goes to Vraja, he goes to his original form, Vraja Krishna. Then whenever he comes back to Dwaraka, he's now into Dwaraka Krishna form, right? So now he comes back, and it is explained that now at this time, the dice match happens, Draupadi is stripped, the exile happens, and the big war takes place, during this time. So in amongst all of this, we see Balaram decides that I don't want to participate in this fighting. right? So he decides to do a very big, yatra, his pilgrimage. So he actually tours the whole of India, right? Now it's interesting that, Lord Balaram, tours, and then after that, Lord Nityananda comes. So I apologize, Lord Chaitanya also tours India. Sorry, not Nityananda, I apologize, Lord Chaitanya. So, Lord Balaram, he is Shankarshan, right? So he lays the groundwork. So it is very interesting that he also travels. So it's very interesting, that idea. So anyway, Lord Balaram, because he doesn't want to participate in the fight, he starts traveling to all the places. Then he comes to Naimisharanya. Now when he comes to Naimisharanya, immediately all the sadhus. Now what are the devotees doing in Naimisharanya? They are trying to understand Krishna. So they are glorifying Krishna. In front of them now comes Krishna. So when I'm saying Krishna means Vishnu, Vishnu. So Balaram is Vishnu, he's Vishnu personified, right? Now all the sages get up, Vyasadeva, Attila, Asita, everyone gets up, they all bow down, Shaunaka, everyone. But sitting in the Vyasasana is Roma Harshana Sutta, right? And he's just, continuously giving his class, no respect for Balaram. So Lord Balaram gets very angry. And then so in his anger, he takes a blade of grass and he touches Roma Harshana, and Roma Harshana dies. And then here he explains that, Roma Harshana is genuinely a sutta. So sutta means he's mixed. He's mixed up. Now one may think that, Krishna is talking about, degrading him. No, when Balaram is saying that he's sutta, he's mixed, he's saying that he's mixed up. His bhakti is not pure. He's, jnana mishra bhakti, karma mishra bhakti, mishra mixed. So that's why he's calling him sutta. That, he's actually mixed. So that's why he's not fit to sit in the Vyasasana, so he removes him. Right? So he immediately takes him out of the Vyasasana. So, when this happens, the Brahmanas, they become extremely perturbed. And it is explained that, these Brahmanas are not very intelligent. Why would you get perturbed? If Krishna is doing something, why would you get perturbed? That's Krishna doing it. It's ordained. It is perfect. But then the Brahmanas, asked Lord Balaram that, my dear Lord Balaram, we had given blessings to Roma Harshana that he will live a long life so he can give a discourse. Okay? He said, but you killed him? Now what to do? So Lord Balaram says, if you want, I can bring him back right now. So, Srila Prabhupada mentions and the Acharyas mentioned that Krishna brought back his teacher's children. What's the big deal? He can bring people back, not a problem. But then, of course, the Brahmanas, say that, no, now, you are Vishnu, you have done it, so you have done it. Now what should we do? Let's come up with resolve the situation. So it is at this time that Suta Goswami is installed as the speaker of Naimisharanya. So Lord Balaram personally establishes him in the Vyasasana and says, you will now narrate all the stories. So that is why in all the Puranas, you will see Suta Goswami opening. Mahabharata, Suta Goswami speaking, Bhagavatam, Suta Goswami speaking. So you will notice this pattern now, because he's been established personally by Lord Balaram, the Adi Guru. So and so now Suta Goswami will start speaking. And so it is said, he was explaining that the son is as good as the father. So now your blessings are there. What was his name? Ugra Shrava, right? Ugra Shrava. Ugra, one who speaks voraciously. Ugra Shrava. So Ugra Shrava or Suta Goswami, he is established, and then he starts speaking. The Brahmanas, then Lord Balaram asks, now what else can I do? Tell me what else can I do? So then they ask him to kill a demon, right? Balwala. So I am one chapter short today, thank God. I didn't go that badly off time. So we will end here. I was thinking we will do chapter 79, but unfortunately we have gone over time. So we will end here, and then we will now lead up tomorrow from the story of how Lord Balaram kills this demon, Balwala, and then he pleases the Brahmanas of Naimisharanya. Alright, so we'll end here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Gaur, Hare Krishna. interesting, this chapter.